No.
While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate in Zoom as preferred. Instructions on how to attend virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionkf.org. The public is also invited to participate in the meeting. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we will call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you are a part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to go to the lectern to make your comment. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also, please be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. All public comments are limited.
I can't get the video to go
This meeting will be recorded and posted on the city website.
Camera is on.
Please contact the administrative offices at 913-676-350 with any questions. Ms. Bolts, please call the roll.
Hayden Posey. Here. Boltinghouse. Loudon. Here. Breyer.
Here.
Kring.
Here.
Schmid.
Here.
Carpenter Davis.
Here.
Posey.
Here.
Is there any member of the public who would like to vote now not storage and this night? We hear public comments are related to the minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to the planning commission action items. We have two items coming forward from the planning commission this evening. The first is for consideration of ordinance incorporating the Mission Connection Plan 2024 into the Tomorrow Together 2040 Mission Comprehensive Plan from Ryan's back.
Madam Chair.
Is your microphone on? Is your microphone on? Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So we had two items that came from the June Planning Commission meeting. They both pertain to recent studies that we completed. The first is the Mission Connections Plan, which is our new bike ped study. This is our first bike ped study. We've never really had a formal bike ped study before. So we had the opportunity to get a grant through MARC, the Planning Sustainable Places Grant. And we've hired the firm of RDG to do the study for us. And the principal on the study was Marty Schuker, nationally known for active civil transportation planning, bicycle and ped studies. And he brought a lot to the effort. So that study was completed earlier this winter, and we heard from Marty back in May, who's going to do all the work session. And we took that to the Planning Commission meeting in June for a public hearing, where another of his associates presented, and the Planning Commission recommended adding this to the comprehensive plan as an amendment or appendices. And so that is what we're bringing to you tonight. And I guess I'll just kind of go ahead and take the other one, just sort of back together here. So the other study that we did, this was started last year, we completed early this winter, was the Rock Creek Corridor Improvement. And this is a study of the Rock Creek Corridor from essentially Woodson all the way to Woolen Drive. And we looked at not only the path of the trail, but also Martway and how the trail interacts with Martway, and look for opportunities for kind of greening up the trail path and incorporating public art, making improvements to the marketplace itself, and then just kind of incorporating features as much as we can of the Rock Creek element, the water element. That was also funded through any sustainable places plan from Mark, and firm that did that was Wilson in conjunction with Oxy and by Walk KC. So both plans had a very extensive public engagement process, and a number of open houses, the steering committee, which some of you sat on, and then an active website. And so we also brought that plan to the June Planning Commission public hearing, and John from Wilson was there to present the plan. And after hearing that, taking due consideration for public comments, planning commission recommended to amend the comprehensive plans all together and add this as expenditure E to the plan. So these items will both be on your legislative agenda for the 18th of Carol presented by her. And I would add, we have an opportunity as part of the mission connection
No,
thing,
no.
like that stories. We have a stories order for you to do, and that's actually on the web page. Now it's interactive. Where you kind of go in there, you follow that along about the plan. Carol shows to you, if you get a chance to preview that, I strongly encourage you. Very interesting. That's it.
Any questions on item 1 or 2?
As I was reading this, I wondered, do you think there are grants coming down the site to make some of this a reality?
I really should.
It's on mute.
We are actively pursuing another PSP grant to do a second phase of the Aquatic corridor. And that would essentially be from Woodson going to the west, all the way to the.
Like,
Yeah, the studies, things we did in the first phase, and adds to that in the second phase, again, along Mart Way, and back behind the county building, the Hy-Vee, and back to Target, how we can enhance the whole trail, and again, Mart Way as well, so we can pull forward.
Leave computer audio.
Unfortunately, they did not have any funding in this round.
that's what I think. And then it also
Every time.
seemed as though we were looking at adding more sidewalks around the city. Is that just a part of the comprehensive plan, or is that something that we think there's even perhaps coming down?
Really.
So yes, is the answer to your
Yes.
questions. The comprehensive plan tomorrow together, cited the recommendation enhancing our active transportation networks, more sidewalks, more trails throughout the city. And I cited some of those recommendations in staff report. This plan, the connections plan, the missions connections plan, really kind of takes that to the next level. It says where will the sidewalks be, what they look like, how would they interact with the bike trail, for example, simple bike trail, fine with the bike trail, with wider sidewalk / trail. And then for us as staff, Stephanie and I, Carrie and Laura, we're gonna take that plan and when we start looking at street improvements on the capital improvements program, we'll refer back to the plan and see what we need to incorporate into that. And if there's grant opportunities, be it through the county, CARS program, federal funding, of course, there's mention that. But we're gonna start incorporating these improvements into our CIP and start building that. It'll be a multi-year process between them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We move into public presentation. We have one public presentation this evening highlighting the 2024 season of the Mission Summer Camp and Mission Family Aquatic Center in Ben Albany and friends.
Good evening, council. Thanks for having us. So it's pretty common practice at the end of a very busy summer season in Parks and Recreation that we present our 2 flagship operations, one of which is the Mission Family Aquatic Center, which is run by our aquatics facility manager, our supervisor, Jenna Dickman. So we'll have her present, followed by our recreation programs and events supervisor, Jamie Smith, who will then share some of the highlights and impacts of our Mission Summer Camp. Jenna?
Hello, thank you for allowing me to come talk about our summer at the Mission Family Aquatic Center. Okay, some changes in 2024. Super Pool Pass changed to individual pricing, kind of similar to our membership. And I did not add this on here, but we did increase membership dues this year to keep up with the rising costs of staffing and facilitating that facility. So, no worries, I keep going. We also added a new fitness class, so it's called Aqua Circuit. We recruited this gal from Lifetime, and she's actually going to be over at the community center providing that class as well. Here's our revenue summary. So memberships, we did surpass last year, as well as daily passes and concessions. We did really well. Programs, we saw a little bit of a dip, but we had to cancel one of the programs due to low participation. And then we had to reschedule one to the past couple of weeks. So our Under the Sea pool party, which is usually in the heart of summer, got rescheduled to the end of August. So we saw a little bit less of a turnout, but it's still a great event. Rentals are pretty much in line, and then Super Pool Pass dipped a bit, but we did also lose 2 cities to that program. So, but all in all, we had about 110%. Expenses. So our personnel costs, we were able to bring back down from last year. Last year, if you guys recall, we had significant increase from low and hard users with the Super Pool Pass program. So we had to staff to keep MSA ratio to the vertical stay. And we had about 2 to 3 extra guards per day. So we were able to cut that back to bring that number back down. It was helpful. We spent less on chemicals because we have small regular load. So one thing to note, the contractuals and the chemicals and supplies, that those numbers are through the end of July. So we don't have the August numbers, but really since we went to a modified schedule, you won't see much of a difference, but once I get updated numbers, I can get that updated and over to them for you guys. But as of right now, we're about a 74% profit.
There.
So memberships, we saw an increase from our membership visits. As you can see there, about 2,000 more visits this summer. I did go ahead and add in Bird Village. It came a little bit more with the Super Cool visits than last year, so that was great. And then daily passes stayed about the same. Some opportunities for 2025. We want to remain competitive in pay to keep the good staff that we have. Also continuing the employee referral program because it's really helped us get a lot of their friends and good people in-house. And then marketing, we just have to be able to get the word out there for people to come to our programs. Some of our highlights, we had 100 Aquatic team members, which is a lot. They're a handful, but they were great. Our captains, we asked so much of them, and they did a fantastic job keeping these people safe. And that's, if there's anything I'm passionate about, it's that next bullet point. It's fantastic preventative lifeguarding. We had 0 emergencies, which is a complete summer for me. Retention rate, we're saying about 60% will come inside, and the ones that are not coming inside can return next summer. So. The improvements, we painted the competition pool, we got brand new shades for all the awnings, we added lounge chairs, refreshed the spray pad features, which included just getting them all painted and refreshed. We had a positive team and member experience, and our events, they're just getting more fun that we're continuing to improve on them. Those are some pictures from the summer. We were on the news. Any questions?
Awesome job, just wonderful. The credibility at our Aquatic Center and people that are in and staff that is second to none as far as I'm concerned. I've heard from the brand communities, and this one is really good. Thanks to your staff and everything that was doing. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is the first year that my daughter was able to actually enjoy the pool and the splash pad, and it was like really comfortable. Thank you so much.
And one thing Jenna doesn't talk about in her presentation is the amount that she and her staff support the Marlins as they use our facility for practices and meets. And that's a tremendous, they do really yeoman's work for the first part of the summer to manage all of that. And we appreciate that. And we will hear from the Marlins at your September City Council. So they'll be coming to do their presentation. Thank you.
Hello, hi council and city staff. Thanks for having us up here with Smith. I'm the recreation at the Fairhaven Event Supervisor over at the Powell Community Center. Here to talk about another successful year for Mission Summer Camp for 2024. Oh, it's
Yeah, sorry, give me just a second. I'm so bad at this. You should do that.
Well, we're going to dive into
There
it. Anyway, we are licensed with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. So we maintain that license. That allows us to have upwards of 180 campers in our facility. We're slowly working our way back up to that number after COVID. We didn't run camp in 2020, and then we've slowly been increasing that just to get our numbers back to where they used to be. Well, with staffing, there is a ratio requirement for the Kansas Department of Health and Environment of 15 campers to 1 staff member. We like to tout that we run a 1-to-8 ratio, which is a much better vibe for our camp. It allows our campers to get a lot more attention from our staff. And in my opinion, it creates a safe space for our campers to have more eyes on them. So we try to run a pretty tight ratio for our camp members. This year, we did increase our numbers up to a maximum of 160 campers. So we're real close to the max of 180. This year, we employed 23 temporary seasonal staff. Remain camp 9 weeks, which is our standard. We had a total of 1,278 campers over the whole summer. Those are unique. And so taking 150 campers each week to have 205 staff rate. We fill our camp in 1 week. We open registration to our returning campers in January. We had 75% of our slots filled at that first week time. So we were only able to open up a few spots for new campers. A lot of people signed up for just 1 week so that they could come back next year and get that opportunity. So I'd imagine we'll fill just as fast next year. This year we did increase our camp fees. I guess one thing to note, of the 205 unique campers, 21% of those are mission. Feel really good for a number in a camp our size to have that many mission residents in our camp is wonderful. Camp fees this year did go up $10. $161 is the mission resident and the Powell Community Center member rate that you can get. That is also applicable if you work in the city of Mission business rate as well. $171 would be for non-residents and non-members of the community center. So that went up $10 from 2023. We do intend to look at price increasing again for 2025, just due to the cost of everything. Camp is just going up. It's more expensive to staff it, field trips, snacks. So we're going to continue to increase it slowly until we kind of hit that mark, evaluating, wanting to stay competitive in the market for how much our camp fees are. So discovery and add-ons, we're really a unique camp. We offer a lot of opportunities for campers to do a lot of different things other than just being watched all day while they're at camp. And so we have lessons, which include swim lessons and tennis lessons. This year, we were excited to add pickleball lessons. We were able to run them in June. And people love pickleball right now. It was really popular. Parents and campers were very, very excited to run that. So we will be doing that again next summer. It was kind of our test run this year. It went really successfully. We also partner with the night school and offer a chess camp once a week during the summertime. It fills every year, very popular program. We also partner with Playwell, which offers a Lego camp. They actually run 2 sessions, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And we again filled both of those sessions for this summer. Tennis, swim, karate, basketball. Those are kind of our standard ones that we offer. In the future, I'm kind of looking forward. I'd like to bring in a mad science camp. And then we used to run a technology camp as well, where they could do video game design. Used to be very popular. And so, yeah, we're going to bring it back, see if we can get some hits on a video game design as well. My kendo instructor has also approached me. And when we do karate lessons, they were like, let's do kendo too. So we're probably going to add some kendo lessons to summer camp as well, starting next year. Here we go, looking at the revenue. You're going to see my cost recovery did change. And this is a hard screen to look at because in 2022 and 2023, we were lucky enough to be awarded the Child Care Aware grant, which gave us, yes, a substantial grant amount for each one of those summers to cover our supplies and personnel costs.
2024, we did not have that available to us. So that's kind of why those numbers are kind of jumping all over the place. At that 153, though, you can see we're getting comparable back to that 2021 of the 163 cost recovery. We have discussed and we have a pretty solid plan in place to get that number back to where we want it to be at that 165 to 175 mark. Looking at the price increasing the number of campers that we can have while still keeping the same amount of staff and hitting our target ratio. So that's kind of what those numbers are indicating there. As we move on then into expenses, of course, like I mentioned, everything goes up. So in 2024, costs went up. We did have more staff this year because we did increase our camp number. So our personnel costs did go up to maintain that ratio that we would like to keep. And then additionally, just costs go up. So that's where we're at. Expenses went up a little bit this year. We expect that to be pretty comparable to what we're going to have next year, though, keeping the staffing levels the same while increasing those camper numbers just a little bit. So that's going to look better next year. Fun stuff, of course, we had great staff. We had a great summer. You know, summer's always an interesting bird. We're happy to see them come, but we're happy to see them go because we know we love summer camp. We did have 2 staff we retained after camp, so they're going to stay on with us, which is great for us because that's great retention rate when we come into the 2025 season. For 2025, some of the focuses that we want to make is we want to tighten up that registration process and the cancellation process. Some of our issues are filling the vacancies when parents make other plans. Somebody comes into town, they do something different, they drop camp. We go to the wait list. Parents have already made plans. You've got to make plans for summer. You can't hold on to hope that a spot is going to open. So we're going to work on some procedures to kind of tighten that up a little bit and make sure that we can fill those spots. We always receive great feedback on unique camp experiences. Parents email us all the time telling us it was a great summer. Our kids really learned a lot. Thank you for all you do and your staff. Scholarship requests were all funded this year. We do base it off of the HUD standards for Johnson County. Increased patrons and members donate. We do a variety of different things. One of the best ways that we increase our scholarship fund is we partner with Taste of Aloha, which provides snow cones. I know everybody loves that, right? I know. They come on Wednesdays to our camp. Campers are able to purchase a Taste of Aloha, and then we actually receive 50 cents of every one sold to go right directly into our scholarship fund. So that helps our camp keep it down. That income-based registration, it's about a 40% discount based off our prices for what we offer as our scholarship rate. So we had great staff, we had a great summer, and we're looking forward to 2025. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for this very basic question. The camp fee is $171. That's per week?
That is per week, correct. Yep, that's per week. So that's Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5:30, and provides you 2 snacks each day. And then field trip to the pool and a field trip on Friday. Yeah. More than you wanted to probably know, but it's okay.
I asked.
Yeah, Debbie.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Debbie.
Have we gotten any comments over the last couple of years from any of the parents or people coming in about things we should do differently or add on or take off?
And I'm sorry, we're not doing a good job tonight of speaking into our microphones. So if we
do it again,
yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Jenny. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Debbie.
Do you have any data or statistics on information people have shared with you about things they'd like to see at the community center during, whether it be the summer camp or just general use that we could work on, and anything that we could do to help?
You know, our summer camp parents are pretty happy with what we offer. A lot of times they will approach me about some different add-on opportunities, where things like the karate classes, the pickleball classes. Pickleball was actually a parent request. And so that's kind of where that stemmed from. We were like, oh, okay, we could do that. You know, there's constant requests that we get at the community center for different things, you know, and we're working on some different programming that we can offer to make sure that we're kind of hitting on those marks and hitting those needs. A lot of our adult sport leagues have really kicked off as well, which I think helps. But as for camp, you know, it's all really comes down to training of your staff and to making sure that you're holding people accountable to make sure that they are doing what they need to be doing and keeping the campers engaged while they're at camp. Every year is a work in progress, and I think every year we get a little bit better, but parents are typically pretty positive in their feedback to us, and there aren't too many requests. I do have a request to never go back to Lake Olathe for a field trip again. That was just a side note. It was just, we did it 2 years in a row. It didn't get better the second year, so we will not be back there. That was a request that we will honor and appreciate that feedback. Also, the technology camp, that was another request that I have heard from parents, that we would like that video game design, those programs to come back a little bit, focusing on some of that STEM-based
Thank you.
camps.
Have there been any options for people that can't do the full summer camp, but they want to do part-time? Is there?
I don't have prorate days, but you can do 1 week. So as I mentioned earlier, some of those new campers who were unable to get in on the returning camper date, a lot of them signed up for our week 5, which historically is one of our lowest attended weeks because most people are on vacation that week. So we are lucky if we have 80 kids in the camp. This year we had 130 that week because of so many of our new people. So, and it was only a 3-day camp. So very approachable, low barrier for people to get into if it's not something they maybe want to pull the trigger on a full price amount, but want to check it out. And we have gotten some campers who did fill out the rest of summer for some of those open slots after doing that week. We don't do a daily rate. It would be really hard for our licensing to keep track of that paperwork wise, but they can choose to come 1 week, 2 weeks, every other week. We have a lot of blended families where we'll have campers every other week, depending on which parent they're with at that time. So we try to make it as accessible as possible.
Awesome. I just want to tell you, how many years have you been with the city, Jenny?
9 years. This will be my 10th summer.
This young woman is the face of success.
Oh,
Anybody can talk to her. She's calm. She explains things well. You're just an awesome person. We love interacting with you at all the summer things that we do in the park and things like that. You have orchestrated and coordinated above and beyond what anybody would have ever expected. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to applaud Penn in general for this presentation tonight on both of these fronts. You know, what a difference a year ago compared to now is when we think about things like cost recovery and some of the positive trends in these numbers. I mean, I think the fun thing is getting to talk about stuff that Jenny's talking about here and what programs did we do? Like, what were we doing with the kids? You know, how was that, you know, in the summer as opposed to looking at spreadsheets and trying to figure out, you know, how things are going to be sustainable long term. So, you know, just things like getting creative on the season pass or on the super pool pass and changing that to individual pricing. And then I'm happy that, you know, we're thinking about inflation and adjusting our prices accordingly to match with that. And these are the kinds of things that I think help us continue to provide such a high quality product year in, year out. And so I just am happy to see that we're taking that seriously and but still, you know, being able to provide a service that's accessible for a lot of the public. So kudos and hope to continue seeing the trend in the right direction.
And Leah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I appreciate you having some scholarships for some of the lower income families so that their kids can join too. Cause I was once that single mom of 2 kids wondering what I was going to do with my kids for the summer.
You bet. Yeah. You're welcome. It is our pleasure to do something like that. We want to make it accessible for all. Everybody can have a good time.
And I don't very often contradict a council member, but I would challenge Council Member Kring's description of Jenny as calm in dealing with patron situations. But for those of you this evening who maybe have not had an opportunity to see her in her element, her energy and passion is one of those things that has made this camp successful for so many years. So.
Oh, guys, stop. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. Council staff, this has been wonderful. Thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to follow up. I'd love to discuss it more. We love camp. So thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you both so much. All right. Where am I? Here I am. Okay. We'll now move into our action items. Our first action item this evening is the acceptance of the meeting minutes from Robin Folks.
Thank you. Draft minutes of the August 7th Community Development Committee meeting are included for review and acceptance in your packet tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thank you. Next, we will consider approval of a maintenance agreement with Mission and Beverly LLC for the maintenance of improvements located in the city's right-of-way from Brian Scott.
Okay, tough act to follow. Maintenance agreements. So throughout the summer, we have been hearing about the Mission Beverly LLC development, which is the 261 unit apartment building that's proposed for the property that straddles Martway between Beverly and Dearborn. So this is kind of the final last little detail, and it's simply a right-of-way maintenance agreement that we're asking them to enter into with the city, and it would outline provisions for maintenance of their improvements that are in the city's right-of-way. So remember, there's some on-street parking along Martway. There'll be sidewalks around the building, landscaping and so forth. So that's really all this is.
Great. Any questions, comments? Take a recommendation. Great. Thank you. Oh, I guess we still have you. Yeah, our final action item will be for consideration of a maintenance agreement with Greentec Auto LLC for the maintenance of improvements located in the city's right of way, also from Brian Scott.
Yeah. So same song, different verse. This is for the property of 6800 61st Street, which is the old PPC packaging plant, which is now going to be Green Auto Tech. They have on-street parking that's associated with their properties, kind of partly in our city right away, as well as some landscaping. So we're just asking them to enter into a similar agreement. Maintenance of those.
Great. Questions, comments? Great. Through this. All right. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
And that concludes our action items. We have no discussion items this evening, but before we adjourn, Ms. Smith, are there any department updates for the Community Development Committee?
Just a couple of things. I saw Channel 41 snuck in, but left. So, and I was hoping to be able to introduce Alyssa Jackson. They were actually here, to hear about the connections, the bike ped study plan. They had seen that on our agenda. Channel 41 has sort of changed their coverage format in recent months, where they're assigning more of a beat. So each reporter covers a beat. So Alyssa checks in frequently, and we played phone tag all day today. So I will share some of that information with her later. And I told her you all would be actually adopting it at your September meeting, but that's why you had a camera here this evening. So that's Alyssa Jackson with Channel 41 News. So we can probably expect to see her out and around pretty frequently. More information to come, but the community center is going to be celebrating its 25th anniversary later this month. So there's a whole series of activities, and we'll share out some more details, but wanted to just get that on everybody's radar screen. It's a great time to celebrate with the reopening of the facility after the maintenance closure period. And Penn, how's the feedback on the improvements?
Yeah, a lot of smiling faces, especially those who utilize the track. Our cardio equipment obviously was completely replaced, so everyone is learning the new the new formatting of some of the buttons, but the machines are just pristine. So there's nothing better than coming to a brand new spanking building and with no dents in walls and corners, and it's wonderful to get people back in there. So it's great.
All right, and that's all we have for CDC this evening.
Alrighty. It is now 7:07 p.m. and with no further discussion, that concludes the meeting of the Community Development Committee. Again, this video will be made public on our website at missionks.org. Thank you.
Ready? Okay. It is still 7:07 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee to order. While this meeting is being held in person, we are also offering the option for the public to participate through Zoom if preferred. Instructions on how to attend virtually are included in the City Council calendar item listed on the front page of missionchaos.org. The public is also invited to participate in the meeting. If you are participating through Zoom, please either add your comment in the chat feature and it will be read out loud, or note that you would like to speak and we'll call on you shortly to make your comment verbally. Please remember your comments or questions are visible to everyone in the meeting. If you're part of our in-person group tonight, please raise your hand but stay seated and we will call on you to the lectern to make your comment. When you make your comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Also, be conscientious of others trying to speak and speak slowly and clearly. This meeting will be recorded and posted on the city's website at missionks.org. Please contact the administration offices at 913-676-8350 with any questions or concerns. Ms. Volks, please call the roll.
Eden Champosi. Here. Boltinghouse.
Here.
Loudon. Here. Ryard.
Here.
Kring. Here. Schmidt.
Here.
Josie.
Here.
Carpenter Davis.
Here.
Our first item of business tonight is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment now on an item not on our agenda tonight? Please note, public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Are there any online? I see none in person. No? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. We do not have any public presentations this evening. Therefore, we will move into our action items. Our first action item this evening is the acceptance of the meeting minutes from Robin Folks.
Thank you. Draft minutes of the August 7th Finance and Administration Committee meeting are included for review and acceptance in your packet this evening.
Recommend consent.
Consent. Our second action item tonight is for consideration of an ordinance establishment, TIF District 3C, approving a redevelopment project plan for the same, and approving the execution of a redevelopment agreement with Mission Bowl Apartments, LLC from Laura Smith.
Yes, thank you. So all of these items that are included here were part of your meeting packet for the August 21st meeting when we opened the public hearing on this project. So this is the Lanes at Mission Bowl Phase 2. So it is now ready to move forward. We opened that public hearing, we took comment, we had discussion, we heard presentations from our financial advisor, Bruce Kimmel with Ellers, who is online and available for questions this evening, as well as Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell, who is also online and available to answer any questions. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time covering this because I think happy to answer questions, but we covered a lot of that. And the plan would be at your September 18th meeting, we will reopen that public hearing, take any additional public comment or questions, and then formally close that public hearing. And then this ordinance and then a resolution, which we'll talk about under item number 3, will be on your action items for the agenda on the 18th. So the developer of Mission Bowl Apartments, and I'm sorry, Mr. Mark Hallier with Sunflower is also here this evening. So if we have any questions from the developer's perspective. They have made a request for similar TIF incentives as for their Phase 1 project for Phase 2, which is 96 units immediately to the east of the Phase 1 property. They have requested that the city use both tax increment financing and IRBs to establish that public-private partnership. We have negotiated terms very similar to those included in the development agreement for Phase 1, which includes setting aside 20% of the units as attainable housing for the 20-year TIF term and achieving at least a LEED Silver certification for the building. So this ordinance, when you consider it on September 18th, would accomplish a variety of different things. So we have to carve out a separate TIF District 3C, which will just be, the boundaries would be coterminous with the Phase 2 project. You would approve a redevelopment project plan, which is a TIF project plan that was found to be in conformance with our comprehensive plan by the Planning Commission recently, and then approving execution of the redevelopment agreement, which is essentially the document that is the contract between the city and the developer. And it includes all of the specific provisions and conditions that were negotiated. It also sets out project milestones and estimated completion. It also outlines events of default and remedies to cure default if something were to occur. So again, I'm happy to answer any questions that we have, but we will continue that conversation by reopening the public hearing in a couple of weeks.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Debbie.
Could you just give a brief overview of how many projects we currently have and historically where we've had more than one funding source at hand?
In terms of, are you speaking of TIF? So we have issued, I believe on every development project that we've done where there has been a request for incentives, the IRBs have been included, whether that is a tax increment financing request or a request for tax abatement. We have also used in a few limited cases, and this goes for those of us who've been around for a long time, Legacy Technology. If you recall, they opened on the north side of I-35 several years ago. And I believe we did just the IRBs for them. And then it's Keith and Associates now for the dental building there. We issued IRBs. There were no other incentives that were granted. So in most of the larger scale development projects, there has been at least one, if not, in some instances, we have a CID. So for example, Cornerstone Commons, we have a CID. We also issued IRBs. Sometimes we've had CID, which I think is Mission Crossing, has tax increment financing, CID, and we issued the IRBs as a part of that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? No? Take a recommendation? This one?
Well, this will be on your regular agenda because
sorry, yes. Yep.
Sorry. So
No,
these next three will be regular agenda items just because of how they fall with respect to the public hearing.
Thank you. Our third action item then tonight is for consideration of a resolution of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds for the Lane at Mission Bowl Phase 2 project, also from Laura.
Yes, thank you. So as I mentioned, the ordinance takes care of part one of the public-private partnership. This resolution of intent, so the IRBs are not actually formally issued until the conclusion of the project, which will kind of come full circle with item number 4. And Mr. Wimpy will provide some better context for that. But at the outset, we, in order to comply with the statutes, the council needs to signal your intent to issue those industrial revenue bonds, which allows us to provide the developer with a certificate to secure that sales tax exemption. So that's what this resolution would do. These are not, they're limited obligations of the city, and they are not a general obligation of the city, and there is no point in time at which they would ever become a liability or an obligation of the city. And I believe, I can flip to that page, but I believe in our conversations at the August 21st meeting, I think Mr. Kimmel had identified total savings for this project somewhere in the neighborhood of $675,000 is what the sales tax exemption would generate for phase 2. And that was factored into their overall estimated rate of return. So that was part of that calculation.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the public or committee? Nope. Move on to the last one. Final action item tonight is consideration of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of IRBs for phase 1 of the Mission Bowl Apartments, also from Laura Smith.
Yes, thank you. And I'm going to just very quickly introduce this and then ask Mr. Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell to sort of walk you through, because it's been a while since we've actually reached this stage. And I actually asked a question of him last week when we were putting the packets together. So we are at the end of phase 1. In fact, I believe they have tenants that have moved into the building. We've issued a temporary certificate of occupancy. So they're starting to move people into the building. And so now is the time for us to actually kind of close the loop with all of the necessary paperwork on this. So Kevin, if you could do a much better job of summarizing that, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely, Laura. And thank you and good evening, everyone. Again, Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell, the city's bond counsel. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, first, thanks for allowing me to join virtually. I mentioned to Laura this morning, I'm under the weather with daycare sniffles my kiddos brought home. So I figured I'd keep those to myself tonight. So I'll be there in 2 weeks on the council meeting. But to give you the quick overview here this evening, like Laura mentioned, that the IRBs for whether we're talking phase 1 or phase 2 of the Mission Bowl Apartments are an incentive granting vehicle. So not a financing mechanism to provide upfront capital to the developer, but instead a vehicle to access incentives. And with IRBs, you can either do property tax abatement for up to 10 years or sales tax exemption on construction materials and furniture, fixtures, and equipment. As you all are aware, this development's using TIF to provide a property tax incentive. And so in this case, the IRBs are being issued only for sales tax exemption on construction materials. issuing IRBs is a two-step process from the council's perspective. And as you've seen on your agenda, we have both steps, one for each phase of the project tonight. So it's probably a good opportunity to review those. The first step is the adoption of a resolution of intent, which for phase one of the apartments was adopted in 2020. And this obviously occurs before construction and is an indication of the city's intent to provide this incentive. The legal effect of adopting that resolution of intent is that it provides access to a sales tax exemption certificate, and then the developer can go purchase materials and forego paying sales tax on those materials during construction. The second council step is an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the IRBs. This occurs near the end of construction when the developer's costs are known and near final, and that way they know what the correct amount of bonds is to issue. And the ordinance authorizes the issuance of bonds, which are typically short-term in nature. They're required to be outstanding during the term of construction. As indicated with phase one, we're nearing the end of that, and so we have a short-term maturity on these bonds. The legal effect of the issuance of the bonds is that it completes the statutory requirements to finance or reimburse the construction costs with bond proceeds. And so again, to wrap up, it's not a mechanism for providing upfront capital. The developer finances all costs traditionally and purchases its own bond solely for accessing the incentive. And there's no city liability for repayment of those bonds and no credit impact to the city as well. So with that quick overview, happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the public or the committee? Yeah.
This is a question for staff. If I recall, IRBs have historically not been a tool that many developers have used in Mission until recently. And I didn't know if there was if we have any kind of theories as why they're getting more popular now compared to years past.
So this type of IRB, so as Mr. Wimpy mentioned, you can use an IRB for tax abatement, which is the tool that has not been historically requested by developers here in Mission.
I see.
Or you can use it for the sales tax exemption on the purchase of the materials. And that is the one that in my tenure here, we have used on every development project that we have done. And so it's confusing and we, as you will recall, we have recently done 2 tax abatement projects. The one at 58th and Knoll, which is, if you've driven by there, they've got all the buildings demolished and things are moving along. They've changed the name again, Councilmember Craig, I'm sorry to tell you. It's now called Mission Flats, I believe. Oh, Mission 77, they've changed it again. So we'll catch up with that. Yes. And then on the Millhouse project, we also use the tax abatement, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we not have projects that have applied for both? I thought it wasn't an either or. I thought some of them were applying for 10 years tax abatement and sales tax.
Correct.
But he said or.
Well, Kevin, clarify, but you can combine them. Correct? You can issue IRBs on the same project for tax abatement as well as for the sales tax exemption.
Correct, Laura. So that IRBs can be used for either or both of property tax abatement and sales tax incentive. However, for projects that use TIF financing, TIF and property tax abatement don't work together, and they're in fact prohibited by statute to work together. And practically, you can see how TIF, which gathers incremental property tax revenues, would not coincide well with abating those same property taxes. Yeah. So it is very frequent and common, though, for developers to use TIF to capture incremental property tax growth while also using IRBs to avoid sales taxes on their construction materials.
The reason I needed clarification, his statement was under IRBs, you can either use a tax or
yes,
sales tax provision.
Yes, we'll make sure that clarification. It's either and or both.
Yeah. Clarification. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Laura, but I think you are probably still up next. We do not have any discussion items this evening. Ms. Smith, any department updates for us?
not a department update, but I think I'll just publicly offer our congratulations to Mayor Flora and her husband on the safe and healthy delivery of their daughter on last Saturday. And then I would ask the chief, you had your Cone with Cop event tonight, if you want to give an update. And then I know your Citizens Academy kicks off tomorrow. And then I think that's all we have.
Yeah, we were in the midst of a heavy crowd at Baskin Robbins with our Cones Cop event, and a couple of you joined us there real quick before we had to run here. So thank you for that. And then tomorrow was our kickoff of our Citizens Academy. I think we have 14 citizens residents that are going to be joining us for the next 10 weeks and learn about the things that we do and why we do them, but more importantly, just try to create some more partnerships between us and the community.
Could you please let us know if you're going to do a Halloween ride where you're capturing potential problems between the plaza and Johnson County with drinking and driving?
I'll check the traffic grants that we have typically, they designate the timeframes, and generally we have Labor Day and 4th of July and some of those other holidays that we tend to see it. And I'll check with the traffic grant manager.
The Halloween one is a classic because a lot of the people you pull over have full costumes.
Well, but they don't do sobriety check any longer. It's a saturation patrol.
Yeah. The DUI check lanes have kind of gone by the wayside as social media evolved to tell everybody where they were and prevent anybody from coming through them. A saturation patrol is when we have officers out that are specifically looking for impaired drivers or signs of impairment from drivers, and then they subsequently, you know, if there's any indication that a driver is impaired after committing a traffic infraction, then that DUI is that. It's just they're out there specifically for that on a grant generally offered through the Kansas Department of Transportation.
So what's the frequency of those checks?
There's different programs that go all throughout the year. There's some that are click it or ticket programs. There's some that are specifically for DUI enforcement and those all different types of traffic related things that the Department of Transportation sees as the most influential to cut down on accidents, injuries, and deaths.
Thank you.
Chief, I went to the Cone event and I was only there for 25 minutes, but it was packed. A lot of folks through it, which is really great. As someone who doesn't have kids, historically, I haven't done a lot of the family-oriented things, but I've been trying to make a point to go to them, and it was a lot of fun. I had a good time, even though I wasn't there very, very long. If there are no other questions or comments, it is now.
The only other thing I would say, and I would be remiss, is last week wrapped up the 10th season of Mission Market for the summer. And so kudos to Kate Deacon and her band of other market coordinators, Carrie, Emily, and we hired a new person and I can't remember her name. Justin would tell me. Anyway, they did a fantastic job. And so plans are already underway for next season, but thank you to everybody who came and supported the market this year.
Thank you. Any other comments, updates? Looks like none. Okay. With that then, it is now 7:27 p.m. and with no further discussion, that concludes the meeting of the Finance and Administration Committee.